My name's Chips and this is Toby, our workshop foreman. Welcome to the Chipperton Tramway Workshops. In our last episode, we were on the clock back to 2020 when we first started building these 7¼ inch gauge open wagons and had a look at how we put together the underframes of the carriages. In today's episode, we look at how we overcome the challenge of not only storing these wagons, but also transporting them from railway to railway. So building the carriages was all well and good, but once the frames were completed, we then had large chunks of steel that had to be stored somewhere. Unfortunately, where we live at the moment lacks in shed space, with only this small car garage available, and that's reserved for locomotive number 1. We also have this outdoor area / carport that we can use to store things, but by the time we get the ute, the trailer and the tables and chairs out here, there's not a lot of room left over. So the solution we came up with was to actually store the carriages on the trailer itself. That meant fitting it out with some rails. So when I was designing the rails for the trailer, one of the things I had to take into account was that these rails were not only going to be for the 2 carriages. Eventually, a locomotive was going to need to fit down the middle. Now, if I'd laid the tracks down on the floor like this, and like many other model engineers do, there's not actually enough room to fit the locomotive in because these carriages are so wide. Now, I'd seen an idea from one of our other members at the Copper Coast Rail where he'd actually lifted his carriages up higher, which allowed them to hang over the edge of the trailer, and that was the design I decided to go with. So hence we've got the carriages up on stilts, and then the locomotive will fit down the middle on the floor. Creating the stands was quite simple. 1 by 1 inch tubing was used to create the main frame, which is bolted to the trailer. Aluminium rails were then tack screwed into the frame and onto the edge of the trailer. A track for the future locomotive was also created using the tubing as sleepers that's bolted to the trailer floor. After transporting the carriages, I found that the raised frames moved about too much while driving, no matter how tight the bolts were done up. This meant that the carriages would end up derailing only a few hundred metres after leaving the driveway. To eliminate this, extra bolts were put across the frames to the side of the trailer, which made the frames much more secure. And so, with the rails fitted to the trailer, the next step was to get some wheels for our carriages so that they could actually start using the rails. Stay tuned for our next episode where we'll go through the process of fitting these bogies to our carriages. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe and turn on notifications so that you don't miss out any updates to the Chipperton Tramway. See you next time.